back then she was telling me like all she wanted to do was just figure out how to co-parent our child together. And aside from that, she almost didn't want to have anything to do with me. Um, these days, it's like we're back together already. We're just living under a separate roof, and that's about to change. We got to that point where she gave me those classic lines of "I love you and I'm not in love with you." Trying too hard within the relationship, begging, pleading, just all the wrong behaviors. You got caught up Googling, guessing, and stressing. And that's exactly what I was doing. It's not that there was a problem with her or there's a problem with us. There was a problem in my leadership. It's not about, the perfect thing to say or, the right thing to do. It's about how to be. I no longer feel anxiety the way that I did when I started this program. I was, consumed by it. And to feel that just kind of slowly melting away and me coming back to my center, it's like, man, I miss that. If you want a fighting chance to save your family, you got to go for it. I've got my best friend back. I've got my partner back, the mother of my child. She's the world to me. And, learning how to lead differently and save my family along the way.
All right, guys, welcome to another interview. We have Carlos over here. He's seen some amazing, actually, like Carlos is one of the guys that kind of got like win after win after win after win. And then there's like a little plateau and then wins after his experience with the turnaround program. So we ultimately just wanted to interview Carlos and have him spread a message of hope because he's been in a situation that a lot of people are emailing us about and a lot of people have been in as well, unfortunately, when it comes to going through separation and dealing with all the ramifications of that. So, Carlos, thank you for being here, and we'll just dive right in. So, what was happening in your marriage that made you look for help in the first place?
Well, everything was just kind of falling apart. It started in 2025. We started the year, um, just making plans for our future, and then somewhere along the way, it just fell apart, and we got to that point where she gave me those classic lines of "I love you and I'm not in love with you." And you don't make me feel seen, heard, valued, understood, a lot of those things. And so, as I saw things falling apart, I knew I needed help. Because the things that I was trying, it was not getting many end results.
And so, what were you trying before you decided to join the turnaround program?
Um, I'd say just looking around online, just grasping at everything I possibly could, watching all kinds of random videos online, and just following all sorts of things on social media. Um, you know, trying too hard within the relationship, begging, pleading, just all the wrong behaviors.
Yeah,
Trying to not necessarily buy my wife's affection back, but just looking for ways to bring her back, make her fall in love with me again, and it was taking the wrong approach.
yeah, yeah. And I will give you applaud, and I'll give you your flowers because I know when you came in, you're like, man, I'm just gonna do this, balls to the wall, go full throttle, and you did. So I really applaud you because when people are looking around, they kind of like dabble. They kind of like try this, try a little bit of that, but sometimes that
Hmm.
ends up hurting. And as we talked about with like your behavioral patterns of bleeding points and stuff, there was certain passivity things that you were going through a lot of like a little bit of nice guy stuff that was actually hurting your case instead of building it. But what ultimately made you decide to join the turnaround program?
I knew I needed help. Again, from the things that I was trying, I didn't realize that there was so much within me that needed fixing, so to speak. And that's something I kind of came to understand as I was one of the people that I spoke to whenever I was calling around asking for advice getting into this program. One of the people that I spoke to, she mentioned, you got caught up Googling, guessing, and stressing. And that's exactly what I was doing. And so I tried a couple of different programs, and they just didn't stick the way that this one did. This program was my third attempt at one of these save your marriage type of programs. And so with the other ones, I'd interviewed for those. They were a little pushy about it. I didn't like the vibe. The content online was definitely speaking towards what I was after, and I consumed a lot of free YouTube stuff, and same here with Heroic Husband. And so, yeah, this was my third attempt, and it just fit. It felt right. You guys have
Yeah,
been willing
I
to
love
work with
that.
me too, and we made it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's because, like, and I'm trying to do a better job at this, like, a lot of our interviews are actually, like, been some pretty bad cases, and I wouldn't say that yours was, like, too bad, but one thing that I think, and I'm gonna give you credit for this, you excelled in was the lack of time, because 'cause you're a very busy individual, and then I know you even added some extra stress with another job on top of things. And dude, I'll give you your stars and your kudos because you literally just didn't let that be an excuse, and you didn't let separation or and we'll get into the affair partner and stuff, but you didn't let any of that to be excuse, and you just said, "You know what? Third time's a charm, I'm gonna hit the ground running." Oh, it's very interesting because I think I remember that you briefly talked about that, but we don't really focus on other things. But I am curious, like, what made this approach feel different than everything else that you had seen and tried before?
Really, just understanding that there was so much within myself that I guess it took all the googling and the guessing to figure out. Okay, it's not that there was a problem with her, or there's a problem with us. There was a problem in my leadership, and that's something that this program's really helped me identify and then attack that.
Awesome. I love that. What results have you achieved since joining?
So I've been in the program since September. It's now March. So what's that, like 9 months or so? Back then, she was telling me like all she wanted to do was just figure out how to co-parent our child together. And aside from that, she almost didn't want to have anything to do with me. Um, these days, it's like we're back together already. We're just living under a separate roof, and that's about to change soon, most likely as well.
I love it, man. And then what were your expectations going into this versus what actually happened?
Expectations going into it. I guess due to some of the content that I was looking at online, I guess I thought that there'd be some kind of magic sauce, that secret sauce of like, all right, the strategies, the tactics, and whatnot. What I've found is that it's not about the perfect thing to say, or the right thing to do. It's about how to be, and that's something that really opened my eyes to the whole situation. Was that just the way I used to respond to things, the way I used to react. That's something I didn't know, that I was so reactive, and now I'm working on responding, to whatever happens, whether it's good things, bad things. If we get into arguments, no longer reacting, but understanding what I can control within myself to behave differently. Again,
I
it's
love it.
not a bunch of tactics, and not a bunch of tricks or manipulation of any kind. It's about understanding yourself.
I love it, man. Yeah, because especially when you go into this, and you've probably seen it with other programs, like, we'll give you guys scripts. We'll tell you, I'll Voxer you and I'll be like, okay, man, you can kind of, try to say it like this, try to do it like this. Like, there's ways, but a lot of people with those, I feel, they just try to throw something at the wall and see if it sticks when we really go for the root of everything. So then, with that being said, because you have been, and especially you've been a lot of encouragement for a lot of guys, and they tell me like on Boxer or especially after hot seats, after Q&As and stuff. Like, if you could, what would be the 3 things that you learned that ultimately changed your marriage?
One thing that still, just every time I see it happening, I kind of smile inside. I try not to say anything about it, but the whole thing about the feminine mirrors and multiplies. Um, ever since Noah introduced me to that concept, I see it all over the place, and not just within my relationship. I see it everywhere. There's so many things like that. That's one thing. Gosh, I'm trying to think of others. There's so many, so it's hard to pick one, but that one's a big one for me. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question again? I know it was the 3 things.
Just basically, what are the 3 things that you've learned that ultimately changed your marriage?
Yeah, the mirrors and multiplies. Really appreciate your take on popcorn brain. That's something my when I talk to my sister, she calls it stinking thinking. And so that's the same idea, you get trapped in that spiral, that negative thought spiral. One leads to another, and before you know it, it multiplies like crazy. And then, what do you do about that? Understanding, how to take that, break it down, invert those negatives to positives. That's been a huge one for me. Um, the breathing exercises is another one. That's I've been, aware of different, breathing practices, meditation and whatnot. But that's something that's it's made a huge difference for me. I've noticed, especially when I start to feel anxiety and whatnot. I no longer feel anxiety the way that I did when I started this program. I was, consumed by it, and somewhere along the way, after getting about halfway through where I am now in the program, I felt it all just wash off of me. Like I know how to deal with this now.
Love it. Yeah, and I don't know if you, I think it was about 2 weeks ago where I talked to you guys about the mechanism of fear and how to
Hmm.
uninstall it, but that's basically and I love that, that's basically fear is just, uncertainty plus your perceived lack of capability in handling what's to come, and because I literally like, I give you guys everything, right? I teach you, like, everything that I love hearing that from you guys where you're like, "Yeah, I used to" we have a lot of guys that used to bite nails, that used to just be riddled with anxiety, desperation, and just that sense of peace, right? That sense of peace is just so powerful that washes over you guys. So I love it. And by the way, a lot of people have gotten that sense of peace from you as well that they've told me. So just you being
Yeah,
on the
that's
calls
cool.
and stuff. So I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, one thing
So,
I would say to that really quick is, with that sense
mhm,
of peace, that's something that I got to a point where, because the relationship was falling apart so hard, I felt this part of myself just developing, where, I am a grounded and calm individual, and so to lose that along the way and be this nervous, anxious wreck all the time, it's crazy, like what separation and divorce does to a person within. And so to feel that just kind of slowly melting away and me coming back to my center, it's like, man, I miss that.
yeah. Yeah, and I definitely feel that, like, from when you first like, I remember our first one-on-one, and you're like, "All right, man," like, and you were with, you were on your headset and everything, one of your many microphones, right, that we talked about before. But to even now, the energy, man, and even the questions, even the way that you think about things is night and day difference. And if I could show people you back then to you now, they'd be like, "What the heck? This guy's a completely different guy." But he's always been in there inside of you. Now it's
Yeah.
just getting him out, right? So it's awesome. Now, and this is a question I always like to ask. What surprised you most about this process?
Surprised me most. I thought it would be harder. I mean, granted, it's not easy, it's difficult, but I thought I was really gonna have to try harder than I have. And for the results that I'm getting, it's more of, making a few behavioral tweaks throughout your day, and whenever we're having our interactions, my wife and I, whether it's logistics or meeting up to exchange our daughter, that kind of thing. It's been in those moments where, part of what we learn in the program is that it's not if, it's when, access opens up, or, you get that opportunity to strike the iron while the iron's hot. It's, when I've had those moments, it's just been little tweaks here and there. And
I
that
love that.
compounded over time has really moved the needle.
Yeah, I love that, man. That it's the small things. Like it's a little bit. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's a cliche, but we always forget. And this is what we tell you guys about becoming outcome independent, right? You have to do to become to have. Everyone's always focused on the having, but everyone forgets it's literally 15 minutes a day. We have guys like traveling all over the world. We have guys that like have zero time, like yourself. It's 15 minutes a day. It's the small shifts that actually have the biggest impact, right? Whereas in like the grand gestures and everything, it feels fake. And your wife is smelling it a mile away and she's already prepared for that, right? So now, now we'll get into like a couple questions about coaching and everything, and then we'll wrap up. Like I told you, it's pretty quick and simple. Uh, what did you think about Noah's feedback style and the action steps that he give or that I give?
Um, Uh, uh, I think it's great. You know, it's very much appreciated. It can be blunt, but it's very often exactly what I need. And you know, not always blunt in a way like where you're a jerk or anything, but just direct.
Mhm,
Matter of fact, to the point. You know,
mhm.
no beating around the bush. And so that's great. It's great. It's effective.
Yeah, I think James made me really laugh. He was like, "You gave me feedback that I really needed one time," and you were like and it made me ask myself, like, "Did someone just talk to me like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, because I have to, you know? Sometimes I'll be like, you'll see some guys, like sometimes I'll be very nice to you guys, but us as men, like, sometimes it doesn't get through our skulls, and this is self-included, right?
Yeah.
I had to beat myself up. I didn't really have anybody kinda showing me the ropes like you guys do, so, yeah, I love that. I love hearing that. Now, what
Yeah. I'd
is your
say
main
effective
takeaway?
without being
Oh, go ahead.
abrasive. Effective without being abrasive.
I like that. Now, what has been your main takeaway from the Heroic Husband program?
How much power I have within my own life. Just understanding that uh, I used to live letting the world happen to me, letting life happen to me and not for me. So
I love that.
that's been huge, just understanding because I'd always kind of known, and there was something that I used to preach to my little sister all the time because she used to get into, some trouble. Is that, the person you are today is a result of yesterday's choices, last week's choices, last month, last year, so on. And so, as I've flipped that onto myself, I realize, okay, make some different choices. And tomorrow will be a
Love
better
that, man.
day.
I love that. Cool. Now, by the way, with that, one of the best pieces of advice that I got from a uncle of mine, he literally said, "Make sure that Noah in his 30s and 40s thank Noah in his 20s and his teens in his 30s. Make sure that he thanks that guy for all the sacrifices that he did and all the work that he put in so that he could reap the benefits later." So, they even more to your point, it's so true. That is so true. Now, we'll just wrap up with a couple of questions and then you get to go and carry on with your day because we don't want to take up too much of your time. But would you recommend this program to other men?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And
I've
and
actually already done a few. I haven't seen that anybody's tried to join on, but I've definitely thrown it out there to a few friends and coworkers who I know. Yeah, they're in a similar position or further
I
along.
love it. Now, who would you specifically say should join this program, and why would you tell them to join this program?
Uh, as far as who, it would be somebody that I know is teachable, not too caught up in their own ego to receive the feedback and receive the coaching and actually apply what they're learning. Because there's plenty of guys that I know that they're just so caught up their own, head up their own ass, so to speak, that it's just they wouldn't be willing. But yeah, definitely for the people who are willing to take a step back from your own ego and take on a different perspective, open-minded.
And why would you tell
Was
them to join?
why? If you really want to give it your all, I know way too many people who they just surrendered to divorce and to that process. And they allowed their families to fall apart. And, if you want a fighting chance to save your family, you got to go for it.
Of it. Now, um, I usually just give you guys like the last minute kind of floor. So is there anything that you want to say to anybody that's watching this, any message of hope or any advice or anything that you want to say from the results that you've gotten, which your wife didn't want to talk to you. She like there was an emotional affair that was going on. To now you guys when you got separated as well. To now you guys are reconciling and working towards a date to moving back in together. Is there anything that you want to tell anybody that who could listen to this? The floor is all yours, man.
Okay. Yeah. My wife and I have been together 25 years, just about. We got a 10-year-old daughter, and uh, I thought I knew her. I call her my best friend, and my soulmate, that kind of thing. And we grew up together. We've been together forever, and to see this happen to us, I thought our relationship was bulletproof, and it turns out it's not. I made some dumb decisions that ruin emotional safety, which I didn't even know was a thing until this whole process. And so, you learn a few things along the way, and yeah, I've got my best friend back. I've got my partner back, the mother of my child. She's the world to me. And learning how to lead differently and save my family along the way.
I love it, man. Awesome. Well, with that, Carlos, we'll just cut out, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us, and we'll just go. Bye, everybody.